Virginia Senator Tim Kaine completely destroyed Trump's nominee for Office of Management and Budget Director.
If you were king for a day, tell me how you would save money in the federal budget without impacting the American people.
Thank you, Senator. I think it's the strategy that we had in the first term, which is to go really and take a very close look at the agencies that are spending and wasting money, and I believe weaponized at times against the American people. When they put a 77-year-old Navy veteran in jail, Joe Robertson, for 18 months for building 4 ponds on his ranch to be prepared for wildfires, that's the EPA. I think we have to look at that, and we have to look at the agencies that Congress has a vote on every single year through the appropriations process. And then I think we need to go after the mandatory programs that Senator Cornyn mentioned that are keeping people out of the workforce because they have become not just a social safety net, but they have become a benefit hammock, and increasingly so in the aftermath of COVID, as many of these policies were impacting people's decisions to go back into the workforce. And I believe, and because we produced budgets along these lines, you can get sizable levels of savings and reforms that can lead to a balanced budget and get us back headed in a fiscal trajectory, not only that we would all be proud of, but we could say this is going to keep us from fiscal ruin.
My time's expired. Ella Porter, do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay. Now's your shot. Thank you, Mr. Vought, for your time.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good call there, young lady. Apparently we're going to Mars, and I'm going to reserve whether or not I want to help them. Maybe we do if we find them up there. So anyway, as to dead people, I don't want to give them checks, or they shouldn't vote either. So, Senator Kaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations on the nomination, Mr. Vought. I want to go back to the comment that Senator Warner read to you. There's 140,000 federal employees in Virginia. And you gave a speech that got a lot of attention when you said, we want bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. Now, I pay attention to the way people say things because there's a million ways you can make a point. And the way you choose to make a point tells you something about the person. There's a wonderful, since I had an Old Testament reference over there, I'll go to a New Testament one, Luke 6:45. From the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. We want people to be traumatized. We want people to be traumatized. I've heard a million people in this room give speeches about we want to cut the budget, we want to reduce federal spending, want to deal with the deficit, but I haven't heard anybody give a gleeful speech about traumatizing the federal workforce. You don't want federal air traffic controllers going to the airport traumatized, do you, Mr. Vought?
No, Senator.
You don't want the people inspecting our food, our medicine, our infant formula as federal. You don't want them to go to work traumatized, do you?
No, Senator.
You don't want the people interdicting drugs at the border. You don't want them going to work traumatized, do you?
No, Senator.
And you don't want people who are working for you at the OMB, who many people would think, well, they're in the White House, they must be. You don't want them traumatized, do you?
No, Senator. Thank you for expanding on that.
Yeah, I mean, well, I felt like I had to, because I got 140,000 people, and most of them have families. And they're trying to do a good job. Was your comment about people being traumatized just focused on the federal workforce, or was it more broadly about state employees and local government employees too?
Senator, it was about the weaponized bureaucracy that unfortunately—
I'm going to get to weaponized in a minute, but you were talking about the federal workforce.
I was talking about the bureaucracy that I experienced and that have— at the federal level. At the federal level.
You were not talking about state
I can't
employees.
Speak. I have no experience with the state.
You were not talking about local employees?
Was not.
Your mother was a public school teacher, correct?
Yes, Senator.
So you were talking about you want the federal workforce to be traumatized. I like a lot of presidents. I'm a Lincoln fan. Are you a Lincoln fan?
Yes, Senator.
Lincoln spoke to a nation at war, and he said, with malice towards none and charity towards all. And he was saying that to the North and the South. He didn't say, we want you to be traumatized. He was a bridge builder and a unifier, and that's what public servants should be. They shouldn't gleefully be wishing trauma on people who are trying to serve their fellow man, I want to get to woke and weaponized. You were the president of the Center for Renewing America, and the think tank produced a 2023 budget proposal calling a commitment to end woke and weaponized government. Do you remember that?
Yes, Senator.
And that's the correct title?
Yes, Senator.
It's 104 pages of details to end woke and weaponized government, and it proposes deep cuts to the SNAP program. Is providing nutrition assistance to low-income kids woke and weaponized?
Senator, I'm not here to talk about the budget that the center put out. I'm here on behalf of the president.
Yeah, but you just said you did that. I want to know what's woke and weaponized about providing food assistance to low-income kids.
Well, again, I'm not here on behalf of my center, on behalf of the president.
I know that, but this is your work product. I mean, you can say it's not woke and weaponized, or you can tell me why it's woke and weaponized. I don't think SNAP programs or benefits for kids are woke and weaponized. You agree with me?
When we refer to the federal government being weaponized, we're referring to bureaucracies that.
Okay, so you're not you didn't include SNAP. You proposed to cut SNAP, but you're not saying it's woke and weaponized.
Again, I am not going to answer questions about the Center for Renewing America's
You propose
product.
deep cuts to Pell Grants. Is helping kids pay for college and helping their families, is that woke and weaponized?
Again, I'm not here to defend the Center for Renewing America's
I get it
budget.
that you're not here to defend that work product, and I can understand why. You propose deep cuts to Medicaid for millions of low-income families. Why is that woke and weaponized? You propose undermining health insurance. Why is that woke and weaponized? Eliminating tenant-based rental assistance. Why is that woke and weaponized? Eliminating the low-income housing energy assistance program. This was all in your document about ending woke and weaponized government. Okay, let's see. We want to traumatize federal employees, and then we want to take all these programs that help everyday people who are struggling and cut them because they're woke and weaponized. Those are your words, not mine. From the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. I yield back.
And Tim Kaine wasn't alone either.
Let's turn to work requirements. You've been a big advocate of work requirements. You encourage states to adopt waivers that would allow them to do that for Medicaid. One state tried it, Arkansas. It produced no increase in the hours worked, no increase in employment. It failed. Why did it fail? Because the way that people are able to work is when they're healthy. When they can't access health care because you want to cut it off, they're really trapped in poverty. And trapping people in poverty is really, well, not helpful. Now that your idea failed so miserably, are you going to advocate for it again?
You know, Senator, one of the major legislations that our side has been very proud of since the 1990s was the impact of welfare reform in the 1990s. It led to caseload reductions, people getting off of welfare, going back into the workforce. And we think that type of thinking should be applied to other federal programs, and it's informed not only Medicaid but other programs to be able to encourage people to get back into the workforce, increase labor force participation, and give people, again, the dignity of work.
And you believe cutting off health care encourages people to work when they need to get better health in order to work? It doesn't make any sense.
Again,
and it's been a failed experiment, but you've answered the question. You're still an advocate of that failed approach that traps people in poverty and is quite disturbing.
You know, it's really sad and somewhat prophetic to watch all of these people completely bow down and kneel to Donald Trump, as if this is really what the country wants. Now, it is true that Donald Trump won the election, sure, but he barely did. And there's a lot of evidence to show that millions of votes for Kamala Harris were thrown out because, you know, Republicans are always trying to make it more difficult for people to vote. And that's what they do. So that margin of error, that 1.4% that Donald Trump won the popular vote by, one of the smallest popular vote victories in history. But you got the media apparatus and even Democrats sitting here, John Fetterman in particular, sitting here pretending like, oh, well, this is the way the political winds are blowing. But now all of you people have to own this. You have to own it. In the first week of Trump's second term, you know, he's raising people's drug prices, freezing federal grants, freezing Medicaid. Luckily, a judge came through and saved that till February 3rd. These people are out of their minds. This man talking about some, oh, it's now the Gulf of America. It's not the Gulf of Mexico anymore. You know, trying to take Greenland, take the Panama Canal. Donald Trump's approval rating is going to completely collapse before the summertime. So all you people who are pretending like this man is popular, you have to own it. You can't erase what you've done. You can't erase the boots that you've licked.